Hey y'all, Claire Zinneker, and today we are going to talk about designing your space to reflect you and who you are. I think it is so easy to fall into the Instagram, Pinterest world of cookie cutter images, and while I think it is such a great place for inspiration, I firmly believe that you should create your home to reflect you. And it needs to be a space that feels safe and comforting and inspiring for you. Oftentimes, I think people have a misconception that designers come in and they turn someone's home or clothing store into a space that is very much them and not the client. And while that is the case for some designers, which is fine, some people hire that, but for me, I definitely like to infuse a space with my own aesthetic and my own loves. I also am a very strong believer that the clients should be represented in the homes. It is very important to me. It is what keeps me inspired and keeps me going. So today, that's what we're going to talk about doing for your space. First things first is figuring out what your style is. And I think that that's probably hard for people, especially with the internet nowadays. There's always something new to love. And I also get sucked into that sometimes too. But I think that's why when I'm doing a project, I always start with a concept board and I create these 1 or 2 pages with the theme that I want the space to be, so that if I get distracted, I always go back to that. So first things first, your style. I would say my own personal words to describe my style would be the natural warmth of a Texas design, coupled with the organic materials that I love with European inspiration. But I think it works. I think you see my designs and you know they hopefully feel refreshing, inspiring. I like for a space to have a place for you to rest your eyes. I'm selective with the bold moves, but I want those bold moves to really make a statement. So I guess when you're looking at your design, you either can put together a mood board of your favorite images, or maybe you have people you follow online that are inspiring to you and see, kind of pull those elements. Do you like bold, bright colors, maximal, color-drenched rooms, or are you more subtle? Do you lean into the decorative elements being stone textures or natural woods? There are the classic phrases of industrial, eclectic, bohemian, traditional, contemporary. Do you fit under one of those umbrellas? Who inspires you? What designers inspire you and what's their aesthetic? And maybe you can find your own from that. And then next, I would say, figure out what you want the feel of the space to be. Are you wanting it to be cozy and warm? Are you wanting it to be luxe? Are you wanting it to be minimal? And kind of picking these keywords will help define what your space is. Next, we're gonna get really personal. So think about what your hobbies are, what your interests are. Do you like nature, landscapes, animal prints? Do you like sports? Do you prefer new items, sleek items, or do you like layers of vintage and thrifted finds? That adds kind of an interesting texture, whereas the other is very sleek and sophisticated. Are you into traveling? Do you like books? Do you like cooking? Do you like swimming? There's a million things you could do, and think about what defines you, and this will start to create the space that you want. Next, think about colors. Are you wanting a white canvas for your backdrop, and then you're going to throw in woods or stones or maybe colors? Or do you want to color drench your room and really make a bold statement? If so, what colors are you into? For me, when I have a client that wants a color, I tend to, even if I'm pulling a color, I always seem to pull colors that in my mind still feel neutral. So it could be a pink, it could be a green, but typically it's a bit more of a muted color tone, or kind of a neutralized color, if that makes sense. Honestly, what I think is if you color drench a room, it feels less of a statement than if you were to just paint the walls, because it doesn't have the contrast of a white ceiling with colored walls. It feels to me very timeless and very sophisticated. Colors can really help you navigate the space. So you can pick a blue and it's very soothing, or a green and it kind of feels more natural and cozy, or you go with red and that's a very bold move, vibrant, luxurious. Do you like to travel? Incorporate items from your trips. How are you going to use this space? I always ask a client that. How do you live in this room? What are your needs? Because design is great for looks, but it also needs to be functional in your home. Do you need an area for work? Do you need a desk? So when you think about how you're going to use the space, you can obviously think about a living room and a bedroom. But for me, I think about in a living room, do you like to have big cozy get-togethers where everyone's sitting on sofas or comfy chairs, you're watching a movie, you're sharing a drink? Or are you someone that is a bit more formal with your entertaining? Do you like more of a spa look, or do you want a fancy hotel feel with a bit more decadence to it? For your dining, do you do formal get-togethers, or is it a bit more casual? Do you want something that can easily translate into gather around the table for Thanksgiving, but also a sit and walk and snack sort of area? Just always go back to how you need to live in the space. Do you have kids? Do you have dogs? Do you have a husband who's messy? I always try to think about that. That's not true. I have a lot of decor that is not used, but most of my bigger pieces of furniture are very needs specific. Is it a credenza but also a storage piece? Or maybe your coffee table is your storage piece. Think about how you're going to use the space and make sure that what you design fits that need. We also want to think about materials, which I think kind of ties back to a point that I had earlier. In my design, a lot of my materials are a bit more natural, a bit more organic. So I love a stone, I love a wood, I love a linen feeling fabric. I like a bit of texture. It adds a lot of layers without having to add objects, if that makes sense. I think it adds so much interest. I don't know that I've ever designed a space without a single drop of wood or stone in it. It is such a thing for me. Even if it's an object of decor, those elements are very necessary for my style. So what's important to you? Do you like luxurious velvets and fluffy sheepskin throws, or do you like things very minimal? Maybe you're a leather person because you do have dogs and kids, and leather, in my opinion, is a great fabric for that because it can get beaten up, and I think the age makes it even better. You can mix and match. You can do metal side table and a wood coffee table. You could do velvet side chairs and a leather couch. Adding these elements and then adding pillows or a throw, or maybe it's a decorative object, adds interest and depth and really helps you make the space your own. Rugs are super important to me too, and I love layering a rug. I'll layer it with a jute and then I'll do a vintage ushak on top of that. For me, that incorporates a natural element, it then layers it with a vintage element, and you can get a bigger rug with the jute material that is a less expensive material, and then the smaller rug, the ushak, can be a little bit higher end, but you're not spending on the size of it. Talking a little bit about decor. So for me, I'll add an interesting wood element or a box or maybe a piece of stone. I think that bringing in these decorative objects is a huge way to personalize your space. Photographs, prints. For me, I don't encourage a bunch of personal photos in the public spaces unless they're very artistically done. So if you have a bunch of family photos, I like to put those in a hall to a bedroom or in your bedrooms or bathrooms. And then in the public spaces, I say we do artistic family photos or vintage paintings or new paintings, tapestries, For me personally, that's how I add the client's personality into the space. They might be art collectors, or maybe you are gathering interesting things along your trips and you want to display those somehow. That is such a great way to not only infuse the space with you, but also a huge conversation starter. This is also a fun way for me to introduce local makers or maybe Etsy vendors by creating one-of-a-kind pieces. I've done custom benches, I've done custom tables or seating pieces or art pieces, and it's a really fun way to get even more involved in the design of your space and make it your own. There are so many people on Etsy that do incredible things, and you're shopping small. Another element that I think is really fun, and honestly another element that I use Etsy for so much, is lighting. I love lighting. I think that ambient lighting, decorative lighting is such an important piece, not only for the lighting aspect, but also for the visual of the light fixture itself. If your room has natural light or not, it is such a great added element. Another question I get so much is, what if I am gonna not like this soon? What if I'm afraid to spend a lot of money because my tastes might change? What I tell that client or friend is that you should spend good money on a bit more classic timeless pieces like a sofa, maybe a rug, and those pieces can hopefully be long-standing. Maybe they're not as much of a bold move. Maybe you don't need that pink sofa, but then you can put your personal touches with the blankets, the pillows, the decor, or even paint your room. Those are things that, in my opinion, you can change really easily if your tastes change, and you can make the space completely different if you want. And then you're not spending thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars to replace your sofa in 2 to 3 years because you decided that pink velvet sofa that you had to have isn't cool anymore. Don't be afraid to switch up the space. Even if you don't buy any new pieces, you can move around your sofa and your chairs and hang art on different walls and let your space evolve with you, and not always have to buy new things. Something I talked about earlier, and again, this is my taste. You could have different taste, but for me, I'm all about design, step back and edit. Maybe take away a few pieces. I like to be able to walk into a room and have a place or two where my eye is drawn, and then the rest of the space is just accentuating those as well. I like it to be a discovery when you walk in a room that I've designed. You see the bold statements first, and then the more time you spend there, you discover the turned leg detail on the side table, or the marble top on the coffee table. They're what make it, in my opinion, feel really custom and looks like you spent more money than you did. So I know I've thrown a lot of information at you, and maybe you're still overwhelmed with, I don't even know my style. So I just want to reiterate the point I had at the beginning, where it's where I start with every client. It's where I start with myself. It's where I started with my daughter's birthday party, is you make a concept board and you pick images that really inspire you. Pen a bunch of them if you need to. Step back, look at them, see what stands out. What is the repeating pattern or the through line in everything, and take those images, put them on a page together, and that is your reference point. That is the point that you go back to every time when you are feeling overwhelmed, you don't remember what your style is, and all of a sudden you were going for boho and now you're in contemporary. You go back to that, and you can make sure that you design a space that is cohesive, that is beautiful, that is timeless for you, and that you love and ultimately will feel really proud of. That's it for today. Hopefully y'all send me some of the spaces that you've designed. I can't wait to see them. As always, remember to like and subscribe, and leave a comment below. Ask me a question. Tell me what I should talk about. I want to hear from y'all. Thanks again. Bye.